3 weeks ago, I got a pen plotter. I decided to get this and bit the bullet because I saw the pen plotter art subreddit and Instagram, as well as various YouTubers, the main one being Dan Cat. Now, all of the art that I've seen produced so far is static art, so they're just drawing a single picture. But I thought that the real value in getting one of these is that you can essentially have an animated pipeline for making animations, like cartoons. This doesn't seem to be very big in the pen plot art community so far, so I wanted to make this to document the information that I found so far and give anybody following behind me a breadcrumb trail that I wish that I could have had. I'm not entirely finished, and I'll address that at the end, so I just want to show you what I've done and where I'm going, based off of what I found. So the first thing that I found after doing a whole bunch of research, I almost missed this, but this is from the pen plotter art subreddit. Copy. Paste. Now this animation, if you read the description on the subreddit, he just made it in Blender. It's a fabric simulation, and he apparently printed all of this out with a pen plotter, and it took him several hours. I think he says 9. That seemed ridiculous to me. If it's something that I would like to work with, I'm not going to spend 9 hours devoted to just, doing very basic tasks. So I kept on looking, and I found an alternative where a guy essentially made, copy, paste. It was the one that you saw at the beginning. A guy essentially made a conveyor belt that prints out his animation onto rolls of paper, similar to something like this. If you look at this, here, I'm going to full screen this real quick. You can look at the article in the description. I'll link this whole document. What he does is he has a whole bunch of Lego bricks. He describes it in the article, and he built a Raspberry Pi and has this very elaborate mechanism for drawing what amounts to just the different frames of animation. He explains. He explains down here the schematics for how to set up the Raspberry Pi, and he also goes into the exact code that he used. He used a library called Python, or what is it? VSketch. I think that's what it is. It's on here. You can do it your own time. I ultimately tried to use his code because I thought it was very neat. I couldn't quite get it to work. I'm not going to claim to be some sort of computer programming whiz. I'm like, the Neville Longbottom of computer programmers. So please forgive me. So I decided to do this the hard way. So the first thing that I did is I went to Blender. I downloaded Blender. I kind of already had Blender, but just go and download Blender. And there is a built-in plugin called Freestyle SVG. That allows you to take the video or the animation that you have, export it as a series of frames as SVG. And SVG is simply an art style. It's a way of drawing pictures, but instead of telling each pixel what you're going to be in terms of color, it defines a series of lines, and that makes it really easy for the pen plotter, which just goes over those lines, and that's how it draws the picture. So what you want to do is you want to go and download Freestyle SVG. There's a YouTube video that I followed. Again, this will all be in the description. And you can use this. He explains how to export the file as a series of SVG frames. I will say, whenever I did this, I had a slight problem in that the output file gave me each frame as an SVG file and a PNG file. So I couldn't figure out how to get rid of this fairly easily. Like I said, treat me like I'm stupid. So I found a really hacky way to get around this. I'm using Linux, so just in the terminal, I just used this command, and that got rid of all the frames that were PNG files. This will be explained in the script that I'll show you in a minute. So once I have this exported SVG frame, or set of frames, that's the whole video. It's about 5 seconds in total in my case. Then I had the problem of I had to lay it out into a contact sheet. So, rows, columns, to show you what I'm looking for. Ultimately, this is what I got. But the problem is that most ways that you would try to arrange the different frames on one sheet, it's going to give you a PNG file or some dot matrix, not dot matrix, what is it? A bitmapped image. That's what I'm trying to think of. A bitmap image within the SVG file. And this is just a pain because ultimately you want the entire file to be an SVG so you can easily parse it into G code and use it on your pin plotter. So the only way that I figured out how to do this is with this program called, here it is, Vpype, spelled Vpype. Now this is, if I was smart, I would have noticed that this is the main pipeline software that, as far as I can tell, most of the people who use pen plotters to do fairly rigorous stuff use. So what you want to do is just go to the documents, or go to the read the docs. Here, I'll pull it up here. Copy. Paste. Here, I'll go full screen again. If you go to the document section, you will see the basic installation. Just follow these. Installation, the fundamentals of how the programming language, or how the programming scripts will work. Now you can choose to either do this on as a Python script or as a shell script, CLI script, obviously. And it gives you some examples for if you want to do a basic shell script. So what I did is I read the entire documents. It's the only time in my life I've ever read the stupid manual. I'll go down to cookbooks, or cookbook, and it will be right layout. Laying out multiple SVGs on a grid. This is what you're going to look for. And it will give you this script. Now, ultimately, I copied and pasted this script. It gave me an unsatisfactory result. So I had to play with it a little while to understand exactly what it wanted me to do. And ultimately, I ended up using just basic bash utilities. And this is the script that I wrote. So just to go over it briefly, what I do is, here, this looks better. I ran the command that I was telling you about before. Well, no, I take that back. I had a frame that I exported the Blender files, or I exported all the frames to from Blender. I then take those frames, I figure out what the size of those frames are, because I'm not entirely sure going forward what the dimensions that I want to do. Originally, I exported it as a 640 by 480 image, or 480p. But then I decided to go 2x3. Totally up to you. I then define the paper that I'm using. So I live in the United States, if you can't tell. And in the United States, our standard paper size, which is basic printer paper, is 11 by 8.5. But if you live somewhere else, or ultimately what I'm going to end up doing, using the A series, because they have the same aspect ratio, and you can size them up and size them down. Those are a different one. But for my case, 11 by 8. Then I decided that I wanted a slight padding between each of the pixels. You will find this very useful. Apparently for SVGs, there is a standard ratio between the pixels that the SVG assumes that you're using, which is 96 pixels per inch and an inch. These are all defined in the documentation, but what I had to do was, if I wanted something done in pixels, if I wanted something done in inches, what I do is I assume that there's 1 inch is equal to 96 pixels, which is the primary measurement used by Vpype. But you can also use different what am I trying to say? You can also use different measurements, inches, millimeters, centimeters, etc. Okay, but the reason that this number is 12 right here is because that's the conversion for, I think it's like a what is it, a 16th or an eighth of an inch. So I just wanted the padding between each frame to be about an eighth of an inch. So that's 12 pixels. I define the number of columns, and then I define the number of rows similar to the logic I'm talking about right here. Ultimately, I tried to write this piece of code in Bash script, but I couldn't quite get it to work. Again, I'm not the world's best programmer. So I gave it the number of columns that I can use. And then this is the basic sample script from the cookbook that it gives you. I changed it a little. As you can see, I set the image size. No, what am I saying? I set the image size here based off of the results from this part of the script above. So that's what the little dollar signs are, in case you're unfamiliar with the Bash script. And ultimately, I had to manually resize the entire SVG image in order to get it to fit on the sheet of paper that I wanted. This is not the best solution. This is the solution that I have right now. And then I export it as an image called combined SVG. So getting back to my notes here, I'll go ahead and I'll show you the image that I got because it's kind of hacky. It's not the best solution. Let me go here. You can't see what I'm doing, but it's very important. Okay, so here, I'll open this in Inkscape to illustrate my point. Don't want to open you that way. Okay. Add window capture. Okay. This is great TV, by the way. Okay, so here is the Inkscape. Let me pull it up so I can see it on mine. Here's the Inkscape image that I'm opening up. Because I scaled it down, it thinks that the actual size of the image is whatever the original aspect ratio was before I scaled it down. But if you look at this, this is my hacky way of doing this. So go to Document Preferences. Okay. The output of this image will actually get you the layout on the piece of paper that you want. It just doesn't look like it at first. So that's my hacky way to get around this. If you're an actual computer programmer, you can probably do this better than I can. X out of this. Close without saving. All right, so let's get back to where I was. Now, there are two ways that you can write these scripts. I don't know if I mentioned this before. You can write them as shell scripts, or you can write them as Python scripts. Going forward, it is probably better to write this as a Python program because you can integrate the Python programs into Blender. And if you're going to do this as an actual workflow to get really cool, unique outputs, this is what I think you should do. I just did it as a shell script because that was the format that I found it in. So the output of all of this was ultimately a contact sheet that looks, let me get it to focus, like this. And the question arises, how do I go from the contact sheet to the actual animation, which is what I want? And this is where this is untreaded water for me. But I have several ideas. The first idea was essentially to print everything else, print all of the frames out as if they were frames on film. Because there's a lot of film digitization formats that you can use to, or not formats, mechanisms that you can use to digitize film with a basic DSLR camera. So I want to show you, if you want to go down this road, what I think you should do. So first, you want to go and get a DSLR scanner. I haven't gotten this because it costs about $100 to $300, and that's a pretty penny at this particular point in my life. So, and this is, I'm not saying buy this one specifically. I have not bought these. This is the idea. Take and do with it what you please. So copy, bring you over here, paste. Here. You can find these for about $1 to, I say $300. This says $400 right here. So just to look at it, here's the basic idea. You have a DSLR camera, and then these are usually 3D printed, so you should be able to actually just 3D print all of this out, or you can buy it, whatever you want to do. The problem that you have here is that the light source is this plate right here, and the way that almost all of these are laid out, the light source is on the bottom. You have the actual film that goes through right here, and the light shines from the bottom of the film into the camera. But that's not what we want. What we want is light that comes from the same direction as the camera, hits the, in this particular case, it's not film, it's a piece of paper, and shines back into the lens. So how do you get around this? I think that I found a Hackie solution for this as well. What you want to do is you want to get a beauty light, like a lot of makeup YouTubers do. It looks, I found one on Amazon. Again, I'm not saying buy this. I don't make any money if you buy this. This is just to give you the idea. Paste. So you can get this, let me go back up here. You can get this ring light right here. Let me scale it up so you don't have to look at my face. And if you take the picture from this, then it will bounce the light from here onto your picture and then back into the actual camera itself. This is just an idea. This cost $30. I think if you go to Walmart, in the I want to be a YouTuber section of Walmart, they have a light similar to this. Again, if you've watched a lot of YouTube videos where in their eye you can see a ring, this is what they're using. It costs like $20, $30. I saw one of them for $60. Make of it what you will. Okay, going back up there. Oh, I forgot to hit this in the notes. So you can, if you go on Printables, which is run by Prusa, the same company that makes 3D printers, copy, paste, paste. Printables. They have several solutions where you can, 3D print your own solution for film scanning. This has the same problem as before, and you'd still need to get the ring light. Now, all of this still has two major costs. The first major cost is that you need to get a macro lens. And this is photography for a DSLR camera. That could cost, I'm going to assume, like at least $150. I would imagine it's much more than this. The problem is, as far as I can think, you can't just like use a smartphone to do this. The second point, what was the second point? Really well put together here. The second point is that there's multiple formats that you can output. There's multiple formats of film that are regularly digitized by photographers. The main one, if you're thinking about like your grandpa's film camera, is 35 millimeter. That is a 3:2 aspect ratio. Actually, here, let me show you this. Here's a schematic that you would want to output the frames in this particular format. Okay. Open with the image viewer. Can I pull image viewer up? Oh, holy shit, it appears. Okay, so if you look right here, this is a basic 35 millimeter film roll. The actual image is right here. It's a I take that back. It's a 3:2 aspect ratio. So this is 2, this is 3. And the exact measurements are approximately 36 millimeters wide by 34 or by 24 millimeters tall. That's the easy part. What you would want to do on the Vpype script is you'd want to have a gap right here that's about 2 millimeters, and then you'd also need a gap right here that's I have it written down. That'd be 9, so like 9 divided by 2, 4.5 millimeters on either side. But you might want to, if you have multiple rolls of these on one sheet of paper, then that would be double. So that just gives you the idea. I probably can't link this image. I don't know the image, but this is for your use. So you can also use this other film ratios that are regularly used in photography. They're called 120 and 220. These are the two most popular film aspect ratios that I've been able to find that you can buy these film scanners for. They have different, I think that the 220 has the same aspect ratio, or at least on a 220 roll of film, you can get the same aspect ratio. You'll need to look into this. I'm not a photographer. I am just giving you the information that I found. One more thing is, instead of buying a macro lens, I understand that you could get, they're called extension tubes, and it's literally a tube that you put between the sensor of your camera, if it's right here, should mate with the lens, right? There's a gap here, right? But they connect right here. The extension tube is literally a tube that you put between the lens and the camera to widen the space, and that acts similarly. Again, I'm not a photographer, but I have been able to find those. I have found that those are also listed on the printables, 3D printable webpage, and you can also buy them, and they're a lot cheaper than macro lenses. Use at your own risk. So now that we have the way that we're going to organize our contact sheet right here, we have the problem of how do we scan this and turn it into an image, and how do we do this in a reproducible way? You can sit here and just have every frame is one piece of paper, and you could have that go on forever. For example, for a 5-second film, or for a 5-second video at 12 frames per second, you'll need 60 sheets of paper. So we want to avoid this. I believe that's what the original video that I showed you, the guy said took 9 hours. I can understand why. So how do we exploit the fact that we have a contact sheet to make this more efficient? There's a library called Python CV, or I think it's actually CV2, but it's called Python CV, CV for computer vision. You can find it at this website. Here, I'll just show you. Paste. This should bring you to the documentation that you need. Here, I'll go back because this is kind of boring. I've been trying to write a script. What you should be able to do is you'll be able to take take the sheet of paper that you have, take a picture of it, and then similar to a document scanner, if the image is crooked, the CV computer vision will allow you to orient this in the proper format so it comes out in the correct dimensions, and then from there you should be able to digitally cut the entire image into several sub images. Now, this has a major problem. If you have a 4K camera, which is the largest, reasonably accessible commercial camera that you can buy right now, that means that every single frame that you get, and the more frames that you put on a piece of paper, the smaller that they will be in terms of resolution at the end of the day. So if you take a 4K image of a piece of paper, then you're already going to lose some of those because the computer vision corrects for that. And then in addition, you're going to cut down that even smaller image. You're going to cut down that even smaller image into even smaller images. But assuming that you have a whole jig set up to where you can take up the entire 4K image frame. What am I saying? If you set up a jig, so the entire camera sensor is filled up with the image. Then if you have one frame per sheet of paper, that gives you one 4K image. If you have 1080p as the desired resolution, you can fit, and I have it right here, you can fit 4 frames. If you have 720p as your target frame, you can get 9. And if you have 480p, so standard television resolution, you know, if you were born last century, I guess, geez, I feel old, then you can fit 24 frames. This is not to be desired. It might be desirable to set up some sort of jig where you can move the camera to take higher resolution images. So now that you have the digital, each frame, you've gone from Blender producing the animation, you've output the frames, you've taken the frames, you've printed them on the iDraw, and now you've taken a picture of the picture that you drew, and then you've taken a picture of the picture that you've drawn, and then you've turned that into the original frames. How do you stitch them back together? My guess is this would be fairly easy. You can use the command line utility FFMPEG and just write a regular shell script to put that back together. I also understand that if you use any standard video editor, you should be able to just tell it that these are the frames of a video. I know that that's really big if you're exporting Blender animations. One of the things that they'll tell you to do is import or export them all separately as frames. So if the program crashes, it'll be easier. And then you just go into a video editor and you reassemble the frames. So that's as far as I've gotten. I think that will actually give you the image, or that will give you the video, the actual animation that you've now, you know, hand drawn or, you know, robot hand drawn into an actual usable video. I haven't got there yet. This is just me documenting the result of my research and where I'm going to go with this. If you have any suggestions for what I should do, if I just completely mess this up, let me know. I will actually read the comments because I do actually need your help. I'm not a computer programmer. Everything else, I don't know. I'm going to set up a website. It's xopher.io. I haven't set it up yet, but that's probably where I will be. Thank you. All right. Stop recording.